What's up, Goth Gamer Nation? Welcome to Darkened Streams. Oh, and Goth Hunters. What did we learn in the last Fuck, I already fucked this. Also, I don't think I'm supposed to say F words at the start of videos. YouTube doesn't like that. But also, I'm not monetizing this, so why'd you monetize this, eh? Anyway, welcome to Darkened Streams, wherein I review every one of the 327 episodes of Supernatural, or however many YouTube allows before shutting me down. What did we learn in the last episode? No amount of holy water or mandaic amulets can save you from two demons, since they can just kind of flick their wrists and pin you to a wall, when it's dramatically convenient, of course. Also, if your partner is having accurate premonitions, you should probably pick up the phone and call Dad, and ideally, he should. Well, you'd think he'd answer. Bringing out the big guns for the season finale. Season 1, episode 22, entitled Devil's Trap, was written by series creator Eric Kripke. The 6th episode written by him, of a total of 17 throughout seasons 1 through 6. It was also directed by X-Files alum Kim Manners, and both had previously teamed up on episode 16, Shadow. It would be fair to say that the WB had a lot of faith in Supernatural pretty early on. Despite some lukewarm reviews and criticism for the anthology slant the show initially took, ratings were good, and it was recognized for the production quality and chemistry between its leads. This would also be the only season of the show to air on the WB proper. Starting next season, the WB would combine with UPN to create the CW. In some ways, you could say Supernatural was the WB testing the waters to see if the network could limp back to popularity by appealing to a wider young adult audience, because at the time they knew their demographic was mostly 14-year-old girls, and Supernatural was initially very much meant to be the smelly boy show. Of course, eventually they would relent after realizing that the audience was not smelly boys, but for now, the show was still operating under the assumption that this was the smelly boy show. The network merger tried to further remove their wholesome teen girl image with a sleek new logo and the complete eradication of their mascot, Michigan J. Frog, a top hat clad frog that appeared in all of the WB's promotional material and interstitials, that sings ragtime songs and is undeniably an uncomfortable remnant of minstrel era vaudeville. I don't know if the management at WB ever fessed up to that, but the fact that they didn't announce his removal or departure, but instead his death, tells me they knew people wanted him dead. Not gone. Dead. On September 17th, 2006, the WB aired a bunch of pilot episodes for its most successful shows and ended its final broadcast with a montage of its stars like Sarah Michelle Gellar, Charisma Carpenter, Reba, What's-His-Face, Who Gives a Shit, and then temporarily resurrected the ghost of their racist mascot to remove his hat and take a bow. Of course, the character would be brought back once again in 2015's The New Looney Tunes, but that's show business, baby! Picking up right where Salvation left off, Meg, who has either killed John or is holding him hostage, tells Dean he's never seeing his father again. Assuming that Yellow Eyes and Meg, and who knows how many other demons will now be after them in the cult, they race out of town and to the one surviving ally they know, who they've never mentioned so far, for some reason, but it's their father's old friend, Bobby Singer, who from here forward will be an on and off again recurring character in some fashion. Let's just say the actor playing him, Jim Beaver, is present for a lot of the series. He also shows up as a coroner in the X-Files episode Field Trip, which is adorable watching now because I only associate him with Supernatural. So all I can do is headcanon that this is actually Bobby posing as a coroner for some hunt that he's on.
It's a digestive secretion.
Stomach juices, pretty much. Pretty damn close to it.
Also making its first appearance is the sigil that gives this episode its name, and that will appear many, many times throughout the series, the Devil's Trap. It's essentially a fancy pentagram. They don't really stick to one definitive design for it, and the rules of it seem to be easily bent for dramatic effect, but the idea is you get a demon to walk into or underneath one, and they are trapped within the confines of that circle and rendered powerless. Get used to them doing the funny reveal of a demon advancing on one of the boys, and then they point to the trap they just stepped into. Conveniently, right as this new mechanic is introduced, Meg shows up demanding the cult and is immediately trapped in a devil's trap that Bobby had already painted on his ceiling. I mentioned this in the last episode, but rewatching now, I'm thinking they're like just kinda clumsily starting to understand their own lore, because up until this moment, Sam and Dean don't seem to understand that Meg is not a standalone demon. She's a human being named Meg Masters who is possessed by a demon that has adopted her name. After Dean punches Meg out of frustration with her taunting him, Bobby has to remind him that that's still a real woman in there. So, stop punching her, please.
She's possessed. That's a human possessed by a demon, can't you tell?
Maybe this was them leaving wiggle room in case they wanted to depict a big scary monster demon, show how demons look while they exist in hell or something, but the only other form we see a demon in is as a cloud of smoke as they search for a host. So it's real weird that they have twice now tried to imply that a demon could take any other form than a possessed human. So it's just my theory that either Sam and Dean and John didn't know this is how it works, or they think very little of their audience and are just trying to hammer home that demons is people what has been possessed. Thankfully, I do think they handle the moral conundrum of what to do with Meg rather well. They threaten to perform an exorcism on her, removing her from her human body until she finally admits that their father is not dead and is being held somewhere in Jefferson City, Missouri. They argue about finishing the exorcism because, lest we forget, Meg fell out of a building and was shot, and those injuries will catch up with the real Meg once she's back at the wheel. The demon inside her is essentially the only thing keeping her mobile, but Dean convinces everyone that the right thing to do is to finish the exorcism and put the real Meg out of her misery. Demon Meg shoots out of her and presumably returns to hell, while a barely lucid real Meg manages to mumble out a thank you and the word sunrise before dying. Don't get me wrong, I think Nikki Acox, who plays Meg here, does a great job being like a heartless bad girl, but they really give her a lot of acting to do in this final scene. Like, not only does she have to play the real Meg, who was used as a meat puppet for an entire year, where she had to watch herself murder countless people and then get thrown out of a window and shot, but we also get to see a vulnerable and defeated demon Meg in the moments leading up to her exorcism. Like, she tries to bargain with them and seems to be genuinely hurt when the Winchesters show the same willingness to lie.
Before the paramedics get here, what are you gonna tell them?
Oh, look out, there's a ghost! Bobby's such a fucking king. Doesn't matter that his dog got killed off screen and there's now a dead woman in his living room. He's just like, good luck out there, boys. Also, here's a book of black magic for the road. Don't worry about her, I got a 50-gallon drum out back. There's a lot of really good acting in general in this episode. Dean becoming fucking unhinged when Meg lies about his father being dead already is really intimidating.
I told you the truth!
I don't care.
You son of a bitch, you promised!
I lied!
And the argument they have after leaving Bobby's is not only well performed, but just quintessentially them, and shows the strong divide in their goals. Dean is completely willing to put the hunt for the demon, the hunt for revenge, the main quest on hold to save their father. That's the only thing he can think about. Sam sees finishing his father's fight as priority, and doesn't even want to risk bringing the cult with them, as it's their only chance of killing the demon, and their father would be, upset if it was taken or the last 3 bullets wasted on lesser demons.
Well, you and Dad are a lot more alike than I thought, you know that? You both can't wait to sacrifice yourself for this thing. But you know what? I'm gonna be the one to bury you.
Dean relents and puts the colt in the trunk. Using Bobby's book, Sam draws a devil's trap on it so no demon can open it. Yes, this does work like that. You'll see a number of interesting variations on that logic later down the line. In Missouri, the boys happen upon an apartment building called Sunrise and assume that must be what Meg was trying to say before she died. Unable to determine which people in the building are demons, Sam pulls the fire alarm and waits for the fire department to show up. They then steal a pair of firefighter outfits and sweep the building with an EMF meter.
I think there might be demons in here, Sam. Let's get in there, Dean. It's too dangerous, Sam. I'm going in.
I like how cool a plan this is. It just seems like we're seeing the culmination of everything the Winchesters have learned about dealing with demons in one scene. They track them down using the EMF, then I guess blessed the water in their little Mario Sunshine packs, so they use it to corral two demons into a closet and then salt the door frame. It almost seems like they're professionals for a second. They find their father drugged, tied to a bed, badly beaten, but still breathing. More demons show up and they exit through the fire escape, but Tom knocks down Sam and mercilessly beats the shit out of him. Sam's practically jibs. My man's a puddle of meat and hair, but thankfully Dean went back on his promise and did bring the cult and proves that it can indeed take down a demon with ease. The only concern here is, well, now there's a dead body in the street that's like a real guy that probably has, you know, a name, a family, a missing persons report. So going forward, I just think they should be aware that on paper, this looks no different than a regular murder. The three drive to a secluded cabin in the woods, and Sam and Dean ruminate on that very thing. Dean realizes he didn't have a choice. He had to save his brother, but in doing so, he didn't hesitate to knowingly also kill the human it was inhabiting. So I don't know which part of the family business is that. I'm a fan of this scene and the rest of the episode, really, especially Jensen, not only for his talk with Sam, but when his father joins in and commends him for what he did and says he's proud. There's a lot like in between the script that he's taking into consideration for this performance. He doesn't look grateful or pleased that he done good and made Papa proud. He looks scared and uneasy, and probably because you know, he expects his father to act like an obsessive and mildly abusive whack job. But it's because of that he doesn't seem to accept this praise. When John asks for the gun, Dean realizes that his father would be upset that he used one of the bullets, and therefore it couldn't really be him.
You're not my dad.
I fucking love Sam's reaction to finding Dean pointing a gun at their dad. Obviously he's confused, but they just kind of share a glance. And then, you know, he believes his brother. I found that to be rather powerful. After playing along for a while, the demon relents and reveals that he is in control of John. Yeah, I gave Jeffrey Dean Morgan shit in the last episode for sort of putting in a bland performance, but he really redeems himself as the demon.
Your dad, he's in here with me. Trapped inside his own meat suit.
Like, I love watching this dude be an evil scumbag. You know, he toys with them for a while and reveals that even though he could have killed them several times, he wanted to savor it until now because they exorcised his daughter, Meg, and killed his son, Tom. You know, which is fair, but as he says,
two wrongs don't make it right.
Sam asks why he killed their mother and Jess, and he says it's because they got in the way of his plans for Sam and all the children like you, before torturing Dean in some mysterious fashion that looks exceedingly painful. The sight of Dean's suffering manages to give John control of his body long enough to free the demon's psychic hold on the two, and Sam shoots John in the leg with the Colt, which seems to incapacitate the demon for a moment longer, which John uses to plead with Sam to kill him. End the fight here, but Dean begs Sam not to do it. Again, listening to his brother, he lowers the gun and the demon ejects itself from John. Everyone's pretty fucked up after this encounter, so they head for the hospital, and John is still salty with Sam for bungling a year's worth of hunting. But Sam and Dean finally see eye to eye on this matter, and he tells him that killing the demon isn't what comes first. His brother comes first. And that didn't come out. It's about family. Is what I meant. Sam is in the middle of planning what they do next when a long-haul truck plows into the Impala. As a demon stares coldly from behind the wheel, we get a look at our boys, bloodied and defeated. And that's where we leave them in season 1. How fucked would it be if they didn't get picked up for another season? That seems like something you write anticipating that you'll get another one. Or not, maybe assuming you wouldn't get one. Let's just kill everybody in the last second of the last episode. Season 1, growing pains aside, I think this is a really good episode and manages to fill the 40 minutes with a lot of great dialogue and tense moments. It's funny how it feels like a finale and a lot is happening, but you compare this episode to any other season finale and And you could say that hardly anything happened, aside from them all, being shot, beaten, or bled dry, and allowing the big bad to slink away through the floorboards. It's more pure. There's fucking 3 main characters with like 1 main quest, 1 side quest, but later on, that's not gonna cut it, okay? We're gonna need like 5 main characters, 2 other factions, bunch of side quests, bunch of radiant quests, lots of horse armor. The centerpiece of this episode is the cabin scene, which is really dark and atmospheric. And though it is clearly a set built on a soundstage, there is a lot of care put into making it look dark and eerie. It's a good one. I like this one. I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but a long time ago, maybe in season 7 or 8 era, if I were to recommend the show, I'd do it with the caveat that it's a little rough at the beginning. You gotta suffer through season 1, but then the show starts paying off. And to a certain degree, I do think they get better at writing this show and ironing out how any of it works. But I will say it never looks as good as it does in season 1. They were really killing it with the lighting and production quality in general. And even though you can sometimes notice them reusing sets or some kind of wacky visual effect, they do enough to have it feel like well-constructed new locations. Season 2 remains somewhat stylized. It still has a sort of intense high contrast thing going, but its color palette is noticeably different. For some reason in my head, I've always color-coded this as the brown season, where everything in season 1 was like black and blue. Season 2 feels warmer and more brown to me. But that might just come down to when they filmed it, because for so much of season 1, it's like overcast or raining, but there's a lot of walking around with the sun out for season 2. I don't know. I could cut this out, I guess. If I were to give the episodes in season 1 my personal ranking via tier list, pilot episode is an S. I love that episode, and it is also the best the series will ever look. Wendigo is also an S because they don't ever reach this level of tension with a hunt. Nothing they go after seems nearly as intimidating and creepy. Also, it's one of the best looking creatures in the series because it looks like a creature. Dead in the Water is probably a C for me. It's a good looking episode and it finishes strong, but it's one of those episodes like Bloody Mary that just pull a little too liberally from what was popular in film at the time and just isn't all that fun. Phantom Traveler, however, is a fun episode, dragged down only by how goofy it is and how so little of it aligns with the rest of the show's lore. Bloody Mary again is a pretty generic concept, but it's such a great looking episode, and I like that it's a little more self-aware than Dead in the Water was. Skin is gonna be an S for me. That might be my favorite episode of the season. It's the closest the series gets to approaching the proximity of X-Files, and it's just kind of oozing with style. Hookman is absolutely a competently made episode. It's just very forgettable. I don't even remember what I said about it in the video I made for it. I might have even said I liked it, but that memory is gone, so I will say C. Bugs is famously considered the worst episode of the season and series. I don't know if I'd go that far, as it is entertaining, and I think the mere fact that it attempts to borrow from X-Files awards it some forgiveness from me. Having said that, it's still a really silly episode with a ton of logic problems, so I'll give it a C. Home is another C for me. Like, I think it mishandles something that should have had a lot more weight to it, and what I remember most about it is the cool special effect of the flaming ghost. I really enjoyed Asylum. It's nothing crazy or format breaking or anything. It's just the format working as intended. Good banter between the leads, a spooky set, and some fun scares. Some would say A. Not the biggest fan of Scarecrow, mainly because it seems like such a big thing to hunt, but so much of the episode is devoted to Sam and Dean splitting up and Meg being introduced. Oh, but it does have a smoking man cameo. And if you know me, you know I like watching X-Files with no lights on. That's not funny. I will give it an unsure C. Somewhere between a C and a B. I really like Faith. I would give that one an S. It's a great adult concept for an episode and an important bit of world building. Route 666, I'm unsure of. There is a good performance in the middle of this episode. It just doesn't involve any of the Winchesters, and it's in service to a pretty absurd premise. But for the sheer bravery of it, I will give it a B. Nightmare, I would say, is a quality episode. Emotional, tough to sit through, but good use of the format. The Benders is another A. It indulges in the format, but also subverts it in a darkly fun way by putting the boys against the most dangerous monster of all. Shadow, Honestly, there is some great filmmaking here, but if I were rewatching the series for myself, I'd probably skip this one. All I can remember at the moment is everyone being tied up and being like sliced apart. Hell House is a pretty serviceable episode. I like when the show allows for an open-ended conclusion, and it introduces the ghost facers, who are pretty fun, so I'd say a B. Something Wicked. I feel like I should give it a C, but I'm gonna say B almost entirely because they defeat this child-eating witch by just fucking mag dumping, and it's one of the funniest things in the season. I think I'd give Providence a B as well. It's enjoyable and keeps up a fun energy, but it's very by the books. I feel like I was pretty forgiving of it in the video, but I'm not crazy about Dead Man's Blood. I like the moments between Sam and John, but I really don't like their depiction of vampires, which I'm positive they tried to like edge up because the network was known for Buffy and Angel, which both had this sort of cartoony depiction of them, but they're real fucking lame. Also, they have to share the stage with introducing the cult, which is another really goofy aspect of the series. Now that I think about it, Salvation isn't all that great either. It's kind of a boring one, and it just feels like stalling. Devil's Trap is a pretty good episode. I think there's a lot of satisfying conclusion to certain things, some great performances, and a pretty bold final 5 seconds or so. Anyway, goodbye season 1. Goodbye Goth Hunters. See you next season.
Where's our father, Meg?
You didn't ask very nice.
Where's our father, bitch?
Why didn't Meg mention a trade? Dad. He might be.
Don't!
Where is he?
Dead!
No, he's not! He's not dead! He can't be!
Are you serious?
Oh, we're going for it, baby. Head spinning, projectile vomiting, the whole 9 yards.